Hello, everyone. It's October 23rd, 2013, and it's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday, but it's still Harp Tuesday. And this is an episode that seems to take a long time to get out. I've recorded a couple times, haven't been happy with it, and hopefully this one will be good. And what I'm going to do is take a look at Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, by Bach, to give it its English title, of course. And this was a piece that I arranged for a student and then thought, hey, this would make a great Harp Tuesday episode. So I'm going to take a look at it. And of course, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring is from a Bach Cantata, BWV 147. It's the last movement of that. And so it was written for, strings, oboe, and choir. And I've omitted there's a middle section in the piece which has a fair number of would require a fair number of lever changes or pedal changes. So I've omitted that, but we get really the most familiar parts of it, and then later on this, which is where the choir comes in. So we get the major part, and there's only one lever change required. And it's quite a neat piece. And one of the good things about this piece is it gives you a great chance to practice a long, connected section in the right hand. So that we get, for example, 3.5 bars at one point where we're constantly connecting. Until finally we're going to play that C twice in a row, so we're going to come off there. And so it's a great chance to work. It's not ridiculously fast, but it gives you a chance to do that constant connection, and it can be very helpful, right? When we're always have at least one finger on the string, we sort of have a reference point. So I'm going to talk about the right hand first, and then the left hand, and then the right hand. I've got various different downloads available on my website of the sheet music, with one with completely no fingering if you want to do your own fingering, one with fingering for all the notes, and then one with, for example, if we've got, say, at the beginning we've got 4, 3, 2, 1. I've got a version where we just have the 4 marked and the 1 because it's kind of, you're going to play these guys with a 3 and 2. I don't necessarily need to mark it in. Maybe it makes it a little easier to read, a little less busy in terms of all the fingerings, but it can be helpful just to have all the fingerings there. So you've got some options, and I've used the dot above a fingering mark to notate when you're supposed to come off. So I haven't put brackets in, or I haven't put a phrase marking to indicate that that's all connected, but until you see that dot, you're connecting. So we start with connect back down to that C, and now we're going to play that C twice in a row, so we're going to come off and then place back. We're going to play that D twice in a row, so we're going to come off the first time, replace, and then we get this long section. We get a nice cross under, cross over, and we're back to where we started. And this is all the same, and now this is slightly different. You can go down. And now here we got one of the trickier spots in the piece because we're crossing under, but it's that gap, and I've talked about that before, that it's much easier to cross under over when you're just going from one string to the next. But here, we have to go a third, we go. And you can come off there, you can connect if you want. I think we have enough time to just come off to get to the chord. So that's a spot to practice, right? That making sure both the thumb and the third finger are sounding clearly and we're not losing any of them. So there you have that long section. And as I say, we really get a chance to feel connected to the strings. And actually, it's a spot where you could practice, say, if you had memorized, you could practice, can I play it with my eyes closed, or can I play it just looking at the music? Because even when we're coming off, we're just going back right to that same note. So we always have a reference point. And of course, some of the spots are a little bit more difficult than others. This, when we get to finding this fourth, make sure 4 is on that E, and then finding a 7th here. And this. But that can be something interesting. Once you know it fairly well, to see, can I play it with my eyes closed? And different things can come up. You notice different things when you have your eyes closed sometimes. So, and then thinking about the sort of the smoothness, right? So that this line was written for violin and oboe, if they had one, right? So both those instruments get to have sound throughout. In other words, instead of that attack, and then the sound starts to fade away, they're maintaining the sound throughout the note and into the next one. So trying to have some of that same flowing quality when you're playing. And the final thing to think about in terms of all these finger sections is adding the left hand and doubling what the right hand's doing, so that we get giving the left hand a chance to do some of that long-fingered stuff that it doesn't really get enough practice normally. And it doesn't do it as often, but it's good to be able to. And this way it can just sort of come along for the ride, and definitely good practice. You're going to practice your right hand anyway. Add the left hand in there. We also have these chords, but I think I'll talk about them sort of in connection with the left hand. So the left hand is pretty simple. We just got single notes, or we've got octaves, pretty much. And my suggestion would be to do these as open notes. So an open octave is where we're having our hand against the string to muffle everything, and I did an episode on open octaves, and you should see a link coming up right there. So check that out. And we can do most of these notes with open thumb. So we're just, and again, that episode also covered that as well. We're just playing our hands against the string, palms against the string, fingers against the string, and we're just kind of coming up and away and using the thumb. And the object is not to have a staccato sound. We're not worried about, we might not muffle that first one because we're going down a third. And certainly we're going down a fourth to this one. Pretty hard to get that E. But we're just trying to keep it kind of clean, because if we do, that's a lot of sound, even more so on a pedal harp, right, where you have extra strings down there, more sympathetic vibrations. So if instead, and I would start this one, I use 3, right, because I do an open octave with 3. If you do an open octave with a 4, maybe you're going to play this first one with 4, maybe with 3, but just, playing it. And here are 3 or 4. So that we get. Octaves, and I think it'll get a cleaner sound. So I would definitely suggest that. Probably playing everything with a thumb, except when we get down to the G, and I think there's an E in there as well. So those I do with 3, you might do with 4, but it's just a pretty far reach for the thumb. And then we get these chords. Sorry, what do we got? Went to the wrong bar, but anyway. And that's where the choir comes in. So think choir, think a nice rich sound. I don't like much of a break. But even though they were playing them solid without a break, we're trying to have that sort of. It's not a sudden attack. It's not a. We're trying to have it sort of grow and be a choir sound. And that's where I did the episode talking about tone and thinking about the pressure and maybe having some pressure and then letting it go and just trying to get a nice full rich sound out of those chords. So there's the piece. We have this one lever change. Basically, if you learn, there's the first section, it repeats, but the second time when we get sorry. And we're back to where we started and we finish it off. So you have that one F natural to F sharp, and you should have time. And we won't use it for a while, but that's one of the best times to change it. So it's not too bad in terms of lever changes, just that one, and I think with a little practice, no problem there. So there's the piece, and of course you can also think about the musical, the overall structure of it, right? Because when we look at it, it's kind of broken up into 4-bar sections. In the start, we get. Now we're going to repeat. So kind of those first 4 bars, that's a long phrase. But in a way, even with a repeat, it's all still connected. So in a way, it's actually an 8-bar phrase, right? From the very start, we have this continuous line that goes all the way through these first 8 bars that we're hearing it be connected. That first note is connected to the very last note in the last note of the 8th bar. Or maybe just to this note here, right? That first note of the 8th bar, where we get the G, we get the chord, and then the rest of that bar is just basically playing around with that G chord. And here, and again, another thing to think about with these chords is this, the dotted half note, right? Trying to hear that is being sustained through into the next chord. So we got a left hand descending down. So maybe the left hand can help give us that illusion that we're almost even crescendoing through. Like if we were singing it, we'd be holding this, whatever it is. That note is lasting for that long time, even though, of course, in actual fact, it's just fading away. But thinking about that and seeing. If the left hand can help, or just if thinking about it changes it slightly. So again, we get that kind of repeat. We get this little section. Where there's kind of an interesting intensity going on there. It's quite an interesting pattern, right? And we can maybe take a tiny bit of time at the end of that as we set up to one last time hear this. etc. And then we get to the very end. And there, of course, you could, like a lot of endings, you have a lot of options, right? You could do something quite dramatic. You could do something very little. And oftentimes, you want to do something somewhere in between where it's obvious that it's ending, right? We don't want the ending to come as a huge surprise, but sometimes it's most effective, right? When something comes just where we don't quite expect it. So it's either a tiny bit earlier than we expected or a tiny bit later than we expected. But if it becomes too predictable, if we... That's nice, right? I mean, that's nice. It's nice. But it's very predictable. And so it can be even more exciting, even more, create even a, you're just yum when it's just that hint of being just not quite where we expected it. Anyway, just something to think about. So I'm gonna play it out on the pedal harp before the episode's over. But if you go to, you should see hopefully some links appearing right now, I guess. Ta-da. And also, if you go to my website at joshlayne.com/Jesu, there will be a page with information about this piece, and you'll be able to download the PDFs of either the pedal harp or the lever harp version, and with fingerings, without fingerings, and all that stuff. So yeah, hope you enjoy this. And sorry it's taken so long to get this episode together, but I'm gonna try to do another episode next week. So see you soon. Cheers.